Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS English, a one-stop destination for the English medium civil services aspirants. A very good morning and welcome to the daily Hindu news analysis. So let's begin today's discussion by first looking at the topics that we are going to discuss. From the Delhi edition of the Hindu, I have chosen 11 important articles for a comprehensive analysis. We have around 4 articles that require a detailed analysis both for prelims and mains, and we have several small articles which can be important for the prelims exam. So let's ensure that we cover all these topics comprehensively so that you don't have to go back and read the newspaper again. If you guys are benefiting from our initiatives, do let us know through your likes, through your comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Before we start, we have a very important announcement. Unacademy is conducting a special class carnival over the next 2 days on the 5th and 6th of August. Throughout the day, several special classes will be conducted by our top educators on the Unacademy platform. So all you need to do is click on the link provided in the description. You can see the entire schedule of the classes which will be conducted on 5th and 6th of August, that is this Monday and Tuesday, where all the top educators will be taking up a lot of free special classes which could help you in your preparation. So do ensure you attend these sessions and you can use the link provided in the description box below. So let's begin with the first topic. We have 2 articles in today's newspaper related to the developments taking place in Bangladesh. I'm sure some of you would have noticed the news reports that have emerged from Bangladesh over the last few weeks. These are very disturbing, very concerning developments, and the Hindu is covering these recent developments through 2 articles on page 14 and 15. So let's understand why are these protests happening in Bangladesh. Because as a result of these protests, more than 200 students have already been killed at the hands of Bangladeshi security forces. It has led to a major crisis, and even thousands of Indian students who were caught amidst these protests, they have been evacuated by India. So there are many important topics to discuss and explore over here. We need to understand the root cause of these protests and why the topic is relevant for India. How does it affect Indian interests? So first, let's begin by understanding the importance of Bangladesh for India. Even before we look at the topic, it's very important to know why Bangladesh is such an important neighbor for India. In fact, if you look at all the neighboring countries, according to me, Bangladesh is one of the most important neighbors for us because we share the longest land border with this country. The India-Bangladesh border is around 4,096 kilometers long, which makes it the longest land border for India. And also, this border is highly porous, meaning there are many natural gaps in the border due to the complex geography and the terrain. At several locations, you have mountainous areas towards Assam, Meghalaya and Tripura. There are dense forests, and towards West Bengal, the border regions, they are densely populated. So these unique geographical factors make the border very porous. And as a result, there are a number of security threats that we face from across the border, that is from across Bangladesh. For example, Northeast insurgents, they have found a safe haven in Bangladesh previously. They have easily taken shelter in Bangladesh, received support as well in the form of funds and weapons and training facilities. Across this border, organized crime is very rampant. From smuggling of drugs to weapons to cattle smuggling, all such illicit activities are very rampant. And this is also a preferred route for pushing fake Indian currency notes into India to destabilize the Indian economy. Plus, we have received a lot of illegal migrants and as well as refugees in the past, which has been a cause of concern, especially in the northeast of India. In fact, in states like Assam and Tripura, the large-scale illegal migration from Bangladesh has been the primary reason which triggered insurgency by some of the local communities. So if we have to ensure stability in the northeast of India and deal with all these security challenges, it is very crucial to have a friendly government in Bangladesh. And also don't forget, Bangladesh and India, they share the Bay of Bengal. So as an eastern neighbor, Bangladesh would be crucial to leverage the Bay of Bengal to connect with Southeast Asia and to further our Act East policy. So even with regard to connectivity, trade and economic relations, Bangladesh is a key partner for India. We share multiple transboundary rivers. There are 54 transboundary rivers between the two countries. Bangladesh is our biggest trading partner amongst all our neighboring countries within the South Asia region. So we have a flourishing trade relationship, and also Bangladesh is crucial to connect with Northeast India. So if we can connect our road, railway networks and inland waterway networks between India and Bangladesh, we can use this to create alternate access to Northeast India, which otherwise is dependent on the Siliguri corridor, which is a choke point. So through Bangladesh, we can find alternate routes to connect with the Northeast, and the landlocked Northeast region can even get access to Bay of Bengal by connecting with the ports in Bangladesh. So all these factors make Bangladesh one of the most important neighboring countries for India. So obviously, any adverse development in this country will affect India, and it is of direct concern for India. So let's look at what has happened in the recent past, in the recent last few weeks. Why are these protests happening? And let's explore this topic in slight detail, as it is directly connected with India's involvement in the liberation of Bangladesh war of 1971. See, the recent development is that there was a High Court ruling in Bangladesh which ordered the Sheikh Hasina government to bring back a quota system. Back in 1971, when Bangladesh won its liberation from Pakistan and became an independent nation, the Bengali freedom fighters who fought for independence, they were provided a benefit, a reservation benefit, by the founding father of Bangladesh, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the leader of Awami League, who gave leadership to the Bengali liberation movement, would emerge as the leader of independent Bangladesh and provided a policy of reservation for the veterans, for the freedom fighters who had sacrificed their lives, their careers for liberating the country from the horrors that Pakistan was committing against the Bengali population in East Pakistan. So in 1970s, this quota system was introduced, and around 30% seats in education and in public employment was reserved for these freedom fighters who played a critical role in the liberation of the country. But historically, this reservation had been stopped. So if you look at Sheikh Mujibur Rahman here, the founding father of Bangladesh, so when he became the leader after the liberation of the country, one of the initial policy steps that was taken was to introduce this quota system. Because the freedom fighters who had fought for the liberation of Bangladesh, they had not just sacrificed their lives, they had sacrificed their families, their livelihood, their career. Most of those who protested against the atrocities of Pakistan and joined the freedom struggle, they were all intellectuals, academicians. So to honor those members and also to ensure that justice is done to those families which were targeted by the Pakistani army, especially women in general who were targeted by the Pakistani army, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman introduced this reservation system, this quota system, reserving up to around 30% seats in public employment and also in education. So this quota system had continued, and it was not just available for veterans, for the freedom fighters, it had been extended to their children, their grandchildren as well. And as a result, there has been some discontent against this reservation system. While it seemed justified to provide reservation for the veterans who fought for the freedom of the country, extending it to their children and grandchildren, it had led to the misuse of the quota system, where even the relatives of these veterans were cornering the benefits of reservation. So in many ways, it was similar to how reservation in India has often been misused. Though reservation is necessary, affirmative action is necessary for social justice, in many cases it is often misused, which leads to questions about merit. Because students who are competing, aspirants who are competing for these openings, these posts, if they don't get a level playing field and if they see others cornering the benefits through unfair methods, it obviously undermines merit, and it definitely leads to such demands against the quota system itself. So Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who had introduced the system, had later extended this to the children and grandchildren of the veterans, but over the years it had been misused as well, where relatives of these veterans were also cornering the benefits of the reservation. So in 2018, we had already seen a set of protests by students who had opposed this reservation. So following these protests back in 2018, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, the daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, had abolished the quota system. See, Sheikh Hasina is ever grateful to the freedom fighters who fought for the liberation of the country. Sheikh Hasina is also grateful for India, for all the contribution that India made in the 1971 war to liberate the country. In fact, India played a direct role in assisting Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and the Awami League, and even backing the rebel movement led by Mukti Bahini rebels to ensure that East Pakistan was liberated and Bangladesh was born as an independent country. So Sheikh Hasina has always been grateful with regard to those who contributed to the independence efforts. Sheikh Hasina has remained committed to the quota system as well. But because of these protests that had occurred in 2018, she had abolished the quota system, and now a court ruling which was delivered in June, just a couple of months ago, it restored the quota system. It ordered the government to bring back the quota system and restore the 30% quota. So based on this court ruling, fear started spreading amongst the student community that Sheikh Hasina, who is pro-reservation for the veterans and their families, might bring back the reservation and even increase the reservation for them. It's on this ground that the current wave of protests have been witnessed, and the massive protests have been crushed by Bangladeshi security forces, resulting in the death of more than 200 students. Now, this represents a major crisis in Bangladesh. It threatens the very stability of the country, raises questions on the leadership of Sheikh Hasina as well, and more importantly, it represents a fundamental split in the Bangladeshi society. See, if you look at Bangladesh's politics, there are three different factions which have always played a key role. One is the Awami League, which played a critical role in the liberation of the country. The Awami League, founded by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, which is now led by his daughter Sheikh Hasina, is always seen as a nationalist, moderate, and secular political party. It has firmly remained committed to its Bengali nationalist tendencies. It has remained committed to a moderate, modern, liberal democracy, and it has upheld secular traditions. On the other side, you have the former Bangladeshi army. At one point, the army had captured power in the country as well, forming a dictatorship, establishing an authoritarian rule. And some of these elements, these ex-army elements, they are aligned with radical extremist forces, and they have often shown a clear tilt towards Pakistan, a pro-Pakistan tilt, which also means some of these elements, the ex-army officials, they have even shown an anti-India tilt. Whereas Awami League, which received all the support from India during the liberation war, it has always been a pro-India force in Bangladesh. It has consistently backed India's interests and protected India's interests, be it Sheikh Mujibur Rahman or be it Sheikh Hasina. They both have served India's interests very well, and thus Awami League becomes India's best bet in Bangladesh. But now, of course, the army is firmly under the control of the civilian government. But from late 1970s, from around 1975 to 1990s, Bangladesh was under military rule, and this military regime was a concern for India because of its pro-Pakistan position and its anti-India position. It was this military regime which had supported Northeast insurgents at the behest of Pakistan as part of Pakistan's covert war against India. Now, apart from this, there are other political forces such as the BNP, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, and you also have Jamaat-e-Islami. The Bangladesh Nationalist Party, which is headed by Khaleda Zia, another popular leader, former Prime Minister as well. The BNP has become quite notorious because of its conservative far right-wing position, which aligns the BNP with other radical forces like the Jamaat. The Jamaat is a radical student-based outfit. So these forces, they are seen as conservative, aligned with more radical fundamentalist forces, and they're also seen as pro-Pakistan elements. Historically, when BNP was in power in the 1990s, Khaleda Zia's government had taken a pro-Pakistan position and had adopted several anti-India measures. All the security concerns India had, none of them were addressed by Khaleda Zia's government, and the Jamaat in particular has been linked with various terrorist outfits as well. See, that's why recently Sheikh Hasina ordered a ban on Jamaat-e-Islami during the protests. Because this student-led protest, it has a clear angle where there is a divide between the secular forces and the conservative forces. Because the former army elements and as well as those aligned with BNP and Jamaat, they are opposed to the quota system. Since their loyalties still lie with Pakistan, they still don't accept the liberation of the country, and in many ways they have continued to work with Pakistan and for Pakistan. So since the quota system given by Awami League, which was introduced by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, was for the freedom fighters and veterans who fought for the liberation of the country from Pakistan, the other opposing forces, they are against the quota system. See, right now the protests which are led by the students and the aspirants, it's a genuine organic movement on the ground. Several students are worried about the merit system. They're concerned about their future prospects. But somewhere in between, the movement is getting hijacked by some of the conservative radical forces which are opposed not just to the quota system, but they're opposed to India. They're opposed to the very creation of Bangladesh. So this represents a fundamental divide, a split in Bangladeshi society. And this is nothing new. We have seen this historically as well. This goes all the way back to the liberation of Bangladesh. Now, if you look at the origin and the rise of Awami League, you'll understand the contribution of Awami League to South Asian geopolitics and why Awami League is critical for India. In 1950s, following partition, Pakistan continued to dominate and exploit East Pakistan. In East Pakistan, the Bengali community felt discriminated and oppressed at the hands of the elite Punjabis from West Pakistan. Even today, if you look at Pakistani society, if you look at Pakistan's politics or the army and other key sectors, it's the elite Punjabis who dominate the society, the politics of Pakistan. So they've never allowed other minorities and other groups, other communities to get representation, to get inclusive representation. And especially post-independence, in East Pakistan, the Bengalis were discriminated at the hands of the Punjabi leaders. For example, parties like the PPP, which is headed by the Bhutto family. Back then, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto would refuse to provide equal treatment to Bengalis. In fact, in 1950s, the Urdu language was declared as the only state language of Pakistan, which would only favor the Punjabi community which would speak Urdu in West Pakistan. So thus, Bengali language, Bengali culture was undermined. East Pakistan was being undermined. It was during this period that a group of students led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman founded the Awami League and established the secular, moderate, nationalist credentials of the party. So in many ways, Awami League was born out of similar student-led protests. At one point, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and other students and academicians and intellectuals, they founded the movement to stand up for Bengalis and their rights. Eventually, in 1970, when Pakistan finally held its first elections, there was a big shock for Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and West Pakistan, because the Awami League headed by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman cornered the votes in East Pakistan, and thus creating a prospect where West Pakistan had to share power with the Bengali leaders and the Bengali party such as Awami League. This is what led Bhutto to use the Pakistani army and mercenary forces like the Razakars to target the Bengali liberation movement which had taken root. They would arrest Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, prevent him from taking power. They would crack down on Awami League, and the Pakistani army with the Razakars, they unleashed complete horror against the Bengali community. They targeted students, lawyers, teachers, and even women and children were not spared. So by 1971, we were witnessing a genocide against the Bengalis, sponsored by the Pakistani state, by the West Pakistan elite. This is what triggered the liberation movement, and India would go on to play a direct role in aiding the liberation movement. India would support the Awami League and Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and the Shanti Bahini movement, which was leading a political struggle to liberate the country from the clutches of Pakistan. We would also wage a covert war, a secret war where we would support the Mukti Bahini rebels by providing them training and weapons and funds. And they would play a critical role in weakening the Pakistani army in East Pakistan. Eventually, when Pakistan attacked India in December 1971, India went to war. All the three forces, the Army, Navy and Air Force, they fought on both the fronts towards West Pakistan and East Pakistan and delivered a conclusive defeat to Pakistan. This was a massive victory for India. Not just a military victory, but also a diplomatic and a victory in the intelligence game as well. India withstood global pressure from allies of Pakistan such as United States, United Kingdom and others. Thanks to the support we got from Soviet Union during the war, India stood firm in this conflict, defeated Pakistan conclusively and split the country into two parts. That is how Bangladesh secured its independence. So post-independence, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and Awami League, they were always grateful to India and Indian leaders for all the support that India had given in the conflict. Eventually, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was assassinated by the radical elements in the Bangladeshi army. In 1975, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and almost his entire family was taken out. Following this, the military captured power and established a military rule that would last nearly 2 decades. So, within the family of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, it was only Sheikh Hasina and another sibling of Sheikh Hasina who would survive the assassination attempt because they were studying abroad. So for most of her life, Sheikh Hasina grew up in Europe and in India under India's protection. India played a big role in protecting the family of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, but the radical elements in Bangladeshi army who were still pro-Pakistan, they ensured the assassination of the leader and the family and toppled the government. But Sheikh Hasina, who survived, largely grew up under India's care and protection and later would enter Bangladeshi politics in 1980s. She would lead Awami League and bring the revival of the party. And what is interesting is that she even tied up with the BNP, Bangladesh Nationalist Party. So Sheikh Hasina and Khalida Zia, they worked together at one point, even though they came from different ideologies. Because the military rule was much more dangerous for the country. So Khalida Zia, even though her party was a far-right conservative party and Awami League was a more secular moderate party, they worked together in the 90s to topple the military regime and bring back elections. And that is how the BNP won the elections and formed the government in 1990s. But following the mishandling of administration by Khalida Zia, Awami League came back in 1996 under the leadership of Sheikh Hasina and won the elections and formed a government again. But it was only in 2009 that Sheikh Hasina would establish herself firmly. Sheikh Hasina would win a complete majority in 2009, and since then Sheikh Hasina hasn't lost a single election. She has won 4 consecutive elections, including the latest election that was held earlier this year. So this rise of Sheikh Hasina and the re-emergence of Awami League has been good news for India. Because as soon as Sheikh Hasina came back to power in 2009, she assisted India to deal with all the security threats. Since she was ever grateful for India's role in liberating her country and in protecting her family, she would provide all the support to India to crack down on Northeast insurgents and the terrorist groups that Pakistan was sponsoring via Bangladesh. From Ulfa to Bodo groups to the Naga outfits, they were all almost decimated through Indian and Bangladeshi joint operations, and border security was strengthened. Sheikh Hasina brought a lot of economic growth and development, which would arrest illegal migration to India as well. Bangladesh would also tackle the Pakistani covert war against India, be it the sponsorship of terrorist outfits like Huji, which was based out of Bangladesh, or be it the pumping of fake Indian currency notes. These threats were tackled by Sheikh Hasina, thus protecting India's security interests and stabilizing the Northeast region. So no wonder India relies on Sheikh Hasina and the Awami League to protect India's interests in the region. So this development which we are seeing, it represents this fundamental divide in the Bangladeshi society, which we had seen earlier as well, back in 2013. In 2013, there were similar protests, not on the quota issue, but with regard to the trial of war criminals of 1971. After Sheikh Hasina had come back to power in 2009, the tribunal had been re-established, which was trying the war criminals, essentially the then soldiers of Pakistani army who were involved in the genocide against Bengalis. And Sheikh Hasina and Awami League and the nationalist Bengali supporters, they were very firm that war criminals have to be punished, and if convicted, they should be executed. But this was opposed by the BNP and the Jamaat, which represent the more conservative and radical section in Bangladesh. So back in 2013 as well, this issue, which is again connected to the 1971 war, had led to major protests in Bangladesh at the Shabab square. And UPSC had asked a question on this. So I will take up this question. We will discuss this question at the end of the topic. But before that, I would also like to point out that apart from the reasons, the current protests, the reasons behind the current protests, apart from that, there is something else going on in Bangladesh, according to several experts. There is a bigger game of geopolitics which is being played. The protests are not as organic as they appear to be. It appears that there are other forces from outside the region which are trying to meddle in Bangladesh, and there is a competition going on for influence in Bangladesh. So according to experts, this is a game between India, China and United States. India, China and United States. See, India, China have always been in competition in Bangladesh. India has always been one of the most influential countries, especially in the last 16 years under Sheikh Hasina's rule. We have taken up several key projects. We have fantastic relations with the government, right? We have very good defense and security relations as well. But China has also been a key player. China also has good relations with Sheikh Hasina and her Awami League government. China has supplied weapons. It has brought in massive investments. It has taken up port projects like the Chittagong and Mongla port. In fact, even India is involved in the development of the Mongla port along with China. So that is the extent of competition. Both the countries are involved in the same project in order to undermine the other country's influence. Bangladesh has also agreed to join the Belt and Road Initiative of China. So, of course, India has concerns about Sheikh Hasina's proximity to China, but India also trusts Sheikh Hasina and the Awami League, because Sheikh Hasina has never hurt Indian interests. So, India is always comfortable in having Sheikh Hasina being in power, and this is an ideal situation for India, as Sheikh Hasina helps in keeping the radical sections away, the pro-Pakistan elements away, which pose a bigger threat to India. And Sheikh Hasina has always balanced the India-China relationship. Sheikh Hasina has always shown that fine balance between both India and China, and India is comfortable with that. That's why even in the recent elections, we were backing Sheikh Hasina and the Awami League. But however, the Americans are not happy with it. Recently, Sheikh Hasina revealed in a public interview that Americans had approached her government asking for land in Bangladesh to establish a military base which could be used to counter China. The US was possibly looking for a military base, an air or naval base, with the help of Bangladesh, which would allow the United States to counter the Chinese influence in the Bay of Bengal region. But this was denied by Sheikh Hasina, and following this, the United States appears to have targeted the Bangladeshi government. See, Sheikh Hasina has increasingly shown some authoritarian tendencies. Given the challenges and risks present to her government and her own life, because Bangladesh has seen a very complex history of politics, Sheikh Hasina has become a very tough leader, and she has also been criticized for taking some authoritative steps. She got the BNP suspended. BNP leaders like Khalida Zia were arrested. And in fact, the recent elections was almost a cakewalk for the Awami League, because BNP boycotted the elections by saying that these were not fair elections. So there are allegations of election manipulation and rigging of elections by the Sheikh Hasina government. Well-known individuals like Muhammad Yunus, who is a Nobel laureate, has also been arrested. So the civil society has faced crackdown, and the Jammu has been banned, and several social groups, right, have been outright banned by the government, and Sheikh Hasina has not hesitated to use force against any protesters. So this has led to allegations of human rights violations as well. But India is more concerned about how Sheikh Hasina protects Indian interests against Pakistan and against China. So we tend to ignore these violations that apparently have happened under Sheikh Hasina's regime. But the Americans are using this to target her government, and they have even placed sanctions on some of the Bangladeshi officials and leaders. Recently, the US raised questions about the human right and democratic situation in the country, and it appears that the US has been trying for regime change in the country. There have been very disturbing and concerning reports during the recent elections that US was trying to ensure that Awami League and Sheikh Hasina are defeated. So this runs counter to Indian interests. Essentially, India and US are in opposition when it comes to the politics of Bangladesh. Because one, the US doesn't like the proximity of Bangladesh to China. Second, US was denied a possible military base. So these geopolitical games are underway as well, and there are possibilities that intelligence agencies of these countries could be in a way sponsoring some of these protests as well. So there are indications that the CIA and even the Chinese intelligence agencies, the ISI of Pakistan and India's RAW, are involved in a much bigger covert game, a game of geopolitics, which is being played out through such protests. So there might be much more than what meets the eye, according to several analysts and experts. So this is what we learn from these developments. The reason why I discuss this in detail is because UPSC has asked a question on a similar topic. In 2013, we had got this question. The protest in Shabab Square in Bangladesh reveals a fundamental split in the society of Bangladesh between the nationalist and Islamic forces. What is its significance for India? So essentially, you had to talk about the context in which the Shabab Square protests were witnessed. This was related to the trial of the war criminals. So the nationalists who favor and support Awami League, they wanted the convicted war criminals to be executed. But the conservative radical forces represented by the BNP and the Jammu, they wanted the war criminals to be pardoned given their pro-Pakistan position. Because these war criminals, they were part of the Pakistani army who committed the genocide against the Bengalis. So during these trials, a major protest broke out from both the sides, and it led to violent clashes as well in Dhaka and other parts of Bangladesh. So it clearly represents the fundamental split in the country, the divide between the moderate nationalist secular forces and the conservative radical forces, essentially the pro-India and pro-Pakistan forces. So that is the significance for India, its connection with the 1971 war, its impact for India. That is the reason why the topic becomes important, and based on this you can build a very simple answer because it's a 10-mark question. Now let's move on to the next article and look at this topic from page number 12. The article is related to malaria. I'm sure all of you know malaria is a deadly, life-threatening disease. But of course, it can be prevented. It is curable as well, right? So it is a life-threatening disease, and there is a significant disease burden in several parts of the world, especially in developing countries, in poor, underdeveloped countries, in tropical areas, and even in some developed regions as well. Malaria is widely prevalent and there is a very high disease burden. In fact, eliminating malaria is one of the Sustainable Development Goals. Under the SDG goals that deals with health, there is a specific target, a sub-target, that focuses on elimination of such diseases such as malaria. So malaria is caused by 5 types of parasites, and especially 2 of these species, Plasmodium falciparum and Plasmodium vivax. They are the most dangerous when it comes to malaria. These pathogens are transmitted through a vector, which is the mosquito, that too the female Anopheles mosquito. Through the bite of this mosquito, the parasite is spread to humans and it leads to very serious symptoms. Very high fever, chills, drop in platelet count, and very quickly it can become a life-threatening condition. But fortunately, treatments are available if early diagnosis is done. There are treatments available to cure the disease, and also prevention is possible through various methods. If you can control the spread of the mosquitoes, the breeding of mosquitoes, and ensure that you control the vector itself, and also ensure that you improve the treatment facilities, diagnostic facilities, and scale up the vaccines which are available today, malaria can be easily prevented, or at least it can be cured. It's no longer as dangerous as it was before. So you should know the most affected regions. The most affected would be sub-Saharan Africa. As I was mentioning, those countries which are relatively poor and backward, underdeveloped, where hygiene is not a major priority, right, where water stagnation is very high. In such countries and regions, the incidence of malaria is very high. So Sub-Saharan Africa has the highest disease load, followed by Southeast Asia, which includes parts of South Asia, that is India as well, Eastern Mediterranean region, Western Pacific, and the Americas, Central America, parts of South America, and even parts of North America. So all these regions are very prone to malaria according to the World Health Organization. So how do we contain the disease? How do we prevent it? How can we cure? So according to WHO and according to this article in the Hindu, there are cures available, there are vaccines available. It's easy to diagnose the disease and treat the condition. But however, the high disease burden is what creates a challenge for the healthcare systems. Most countries which are affected, they have millions of cases coming up every year. If you look at India, India has over 12% of the world's mosquito population. There are nearly 63 species, and Anopheles mosquito is the leading mosquito species found in India. So thanks to the work of Sir Ronald Ross, that is how we got to know that malaria is spreading through the bite of the female Anopheles mosquito. For this incredible work, Sir Ronald Ross was honored with the Nobel Prize in Medicine, in Physiology. So now we know the vector, we know the transmission route. It's just about containing the vector and ensuring that we can identify the disease quickly and treat the patients as quickly as possible. Today, thanks to advances in the field of medicine, we have vaccines as well, which I'm going to point out. So controlling the vector is very crucial because mosquitoes, the female Anopheles mosquito, not only spreads malaria, it can carry other deadly diseases as well, including dengue, chikungunya, filaria, Japanese encephalitis, etc. According to the WHO Summary of World Malaria Report of 2021, India contributed 1.7% of malaria cases with 1.2% of the global deaths. So that clearly shows India has a high disease burden with millions of cases being reported every year, and the mortality rate is also considerably higher as compared to rest of the world. So it's very crucial to not just tackle the vector itself, which is the mosquito, but ensure that we scale the vaccination program given that vaccines are available today to defeat malaria. And there are easy treatments available today. It's a curable condition. There are anti-malarial drugs which are very effective if given on time. So if you look at India, the most affected region would be the waterborne areas like Odisha, West Bengal, northeastern states, even many of our cities, Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, even Bengaluru. Many cities have seen repeated outbreaks of malaria, dengue, chikungunya, right? So these mosquitoes, they frequently breed in stagnant waters. You easily find such pools of water present in various cities and towns, be it in trash containers, in tires which are disposed, or buckets which are lying around, in solid waste which is carelessly disposed. Water will collect and mosquitoes will easily breed. It becomes a breeding ground for them. Even in rural areas, there are ponds, there are few water intensive crops like paddy, for example, where there is constant water stagnation. So this again allows the mosquitoes to breed, so thus spreading the disease in the rural areas as well. So it's not just densely populated, crowded urban cities, but even rural areas are affected by malaria in our country. So there are many natural methods of containing the vector. You can use camphor, tulsi, or even citronella, which produces an oil which is used in your mosquito repellents like Odomos. So that the writer is recommending the usage of such methods to first ensure there is no stagnant water left behind, and second, to use mosquito repellents and other organic methods from camphor to tulsi and the plant oil of citronella. He is also recommending constant fumigation efforts by the municipal authorities. At the city level, the local bodies have a big role to play. They have to ensure regular fumigation to prevent the spread of the mosquito population, and insect repellents like DEET, which was developed during the Second World War, can be very helpful. Today it has been further modified to be very effective in curbing the spread of pests such as mosquitoes. So the widespread usage of such repellents and pesticides are necessary, insecticides and pesticides. Apart from that, we need to secure our future generation by administering the available vaccines on a large scale. In 2021, WHO recognized two important vaccines. One is Mosquirix, developed by GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, which is a major pharma company, and the other is R21 Matrix, developed by Oxford University. So these two are WHO approved vaccines, and Indian vaccine and pharma companies have tied up with these institutions. Bharat Biotech has tied up with GSK to mass produce Mosquirix in India. The Serum Institute of India has tied up with Oxford University to mass produce the Matrix vaccine. So now we need to ensure that our population is administered the vaccine, especially infants. It is most effective when administered to infants. So scaling up the vaccination drive is going to be crucial to protect the future generations. So these are the basic points we can learn from this article. Based on this, you can get a direct, straightforward question in your mains. UPSC can ask you, malaria is a global menace. Examine the statement and highlight India's disease burden and suggest measures to prevent the disease. A 10-mark straightforward question. So since the answer will be very factual, I am not going to discuss this. I expect you to write an answer for this. Based on what we have discussed, first in the introduction, examine how malaria is a global menace. Examine the global disease burden. Right? Then talk about the impact on India. How malaria affects India. What's the disease burden on India? Which are the affected regions? So once you cover this in the first half of the body, then talk about the impact of the disease, not just the health impact, but the economic and social impact, and explain why it is necessary to fight the disease and prevent and eliminate malaria. So talk about the vector control measures, discuss the diagnosis and the treatment part, and also point out the vaccines which have been approved recently and why vaccination has to be scaled up. So that basically completes your answer. Now coming to the next article, again from the field of medicine and science and technology, we have an article related to Alzheimer's disease. There is a breakthrough test which has been developed in Sweden by a team of researchers, which will help in quick and accurate and cheap detection or diagnosis of the Alzheimer's disease. Now, this will be transformative as far as treating Alzheimer's is concerned. So, what is Alzheimer's disease, also called AD? It's essentially a type of dementia. It leads to loss of memory, and generally it is seen in old age people. It's a progressive condition. It's a degenerative condition. Even today, we still don't understand the exact causative factors which leads to Alzheimer's. Researchers believe that there are genetic factors involved, which could be hereditary. There could be environmental factors, lifestyle-related factors. But again, the exact reason has not been pinpointed. But Alzheimer's is a progressive condition where the patient will gradually degenerate. Their cognitive capacity keeps on eroding, and the old age people, senior citizens, they start losing their memory, their basic functions from hearing to speech to even day-to-day activities will get affected, thus crippling their daily life. And eventually it leads to a very painful death, and it's very hard for the family members to watch the degeneration of their loved ones. So it's one of the most progressive and degenerative diseases, and it's prevalent amongst both women and men. According to WHO, 1 in every 5 women can suffer from Alzheimer's. 1 in 10 men can suffer from Alzheimer's. So women are more prone, more vulnerable. Is that clear? So if you look at the diagnosis of Alzheimer's, it's very hard, very tough to detect Alzheimer's, because generally within the family members don't realize that the old age person in the family is probably suffering from dementia, which could be a result of Alzheimer's. Because everyone will think that this is just a natural way of aging, but it's not. Losing one's memory, losing one's basic brain function, it's not a normal process of aging. So in many cases, Alzheimer's is not even detected or diagnosed. And if at all there is medical attention given to it, problem is current methods of diagnosis are very problematic, very expensive and time consuming. Currently the diagnosis which is used is either a PET scan, positron emission tomography, which is very expensive and very difficult, very hard to access for every patient, or there is a spinal fluid which is extracted through the lung. Hello students, welcome back to the discussion. Apologies for the interruption. There was a technical issue. Apparently there was a audio loss. So I think now the issue has been rectified. So coming back to the discussion, we were talking about Article 311. So under these extraordinary powers, the President of India can dismiss, remove or suspend central government officials. Similarly, governor at the state level can take similar disciplinary action against government officials. The article says that such dismissal or removal can be done only by an authority who has appointed those officials. So an authority subordinate to that can't dismiss them. That is why the authority lies with the president for central government officials and the governor for state government officials. Because the president and the governor are the head of the executive, respectively, at the center and states. And there is a condition that the officials, they should be informed of the charges against them. If they are being dismissed or suspended, they should be informed of the charges against them. They should also be given an opportunity to be heard. So this is a constitutional requirement. Is that clear? But if they are being dismissed or suspended on national security grounds for breach of Official Secrets Act, then there is no need for an inquiry. The government can dismiss them without any inquiry within the department, just by informing them of the charges and by giving them a chance to be heard. Is that clear? So this is an extraordinary power available with the executive to dismiss or suspend or remove government officials. Next, on the same page, we have another important article that refers to the Gandhi King Foundation, which was brought out by former President of the United States, Donald Trump. The US Congress brought out an act when Donald Trump was the president from 2016 to 2020, During that period, the Gandhi King Scholarly Exchange Initiative Act was passed to establish a study to focus on the work and life of Mahatma Gandhi, the founding father of India, and Martin Luther King, the leader of the civil rights movement in the United States. So this initiative is funded by the United States, by the US government. It's funded by USAID, which is an aid agency that receives funds from the US government. Now, India is also part of the initiative, obviously. But however, there are concerns regarding foreign funding under the FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. So India has a law in place to keep a check on foreign contribution, because foreign contribution can be misused to create security challenges for our country. So whatever foreign contributions are received by NGOs or by any entity or institution, it has to be subjected to the regulations of FCRA, and the Ministry of Home Affairs has to conduct a thorough check before approving any such foreign donations and funds. So this program of the United States, the Gandhi King Foundation initiative, which is a research study essentially, it has run into trouble because of the strict FCRA regulations of India. So under the FCRA, India has placed very strict restrictions on foreign funding for research in our country, because foreign donations which can be channeled to research activities could be misused. It could be used to bring out papers and studies which could be critical of India, which could threaten our security and integrity. So the government keeps a close check on such foreign funding, and that is why this US government project has hit a hurdle under FCRA regulations. The issue was recently discussed as well when India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval met with Jake Sullivan, the NSA of US. Both sides have agreed to resolve this hurdle as soon as possible so that US aid can fund this research in India to develop a thorough study on the life and works of Mahatma Gandhi and connect that with Martin Luther King. So that is what we take away from here. Next, we have another article related to Jammu and Kashmir. Union Minister Jitendra Singh has referred to the village defense guards, or also called the village defense committees, which plays a key role in tackling insurgency and terrorism in J&K. See, recently the Jammu region has witnessed a spike in terror attacks. This is a recurrence of the 1990s, because even back then, when the militancy was at its peak, Jammu region was very badly affected, and especially minority communities like minority Hindus were often targeted by the terrorists coming from across the LOC. The cross-border infiltration, which has been aided by Pakistan, has threatened security and stability in J&K, and particularly in the Jammu region. We had faced a significant threat in the 90s, and now we are seeing a revival of this threat with increased attacks in the Jammu region. So back then, the government of India had started an initiative called Village Defense Guards, where local community members would be given weapons by India, trained by Indian forces so that they could defend themselves against the terror attacks. Because some of these attacks were targeted against religious minorities like minority Hindus. So they would be given training by Indian security forces like BSF or CRPF or Indian Army, and India would supply advanced weapons to them, and they would also be given a rank, a designation, and a stipend. So they would function under the SP of the concerned district, and the able-bodied men, youth, women as well, they were given the training and recruited into village defense guards. This initiative was seen as very helpful to counter militancy back in the 90s. But however, later it was suspended due to controversy surrounding the misuse of these weapons. Some of the village defense guards blatantly misused the authority given to them, the weapons given to them, and they had committed brutal atrocities, from fake killings to rapes and murders. So this had led to serious human rights violations, and thus India suspended the village defense guard initiative with the decline in militancy in J&K. But now that we are seeing a revival of militancy in the Jammu region especially, the Modi government has revived the initiative, and now it's called Village Defense Committees. Ministry of Home Affairs revived this initiative in 2022. And India is again providing weapons into the hands of the local people so that they can defend themselves and counter the terrorists and hold the ground until the security forces can rush in. Is that clear? This can help in saving lives and in countering terrorism as well. So, Jitendra Singh, Union Minister, has stated that sophisticated weapons are being given to village defense committees in the Jammu region so that we can counter the threat posed by terrorism. Next, we have an environment ecology article. The four-ringed butterfly has resurfaced in India. You can see the image of the four-ringed butterfly. It's a very unique butterfly. It has this dull grey to brownish color on the wing with these rings present over here, with a yellow and black bespectacled ring, which is a unique marker of this butterfly. Usually there are four such rings, that's why it's named as the four-ringed butterfly. Its last appearance was somewhere in the 1950s in Assam. After that, it had never been spotted. Now, 61 years later, a study conducted in 2018 has again uncovered the four-ringed butterfly. It has been found in the Namdapha National Park, which is in Arunachal Pradesh. Namdapha is also India's easternmost national park and tiger reserve, present along the borders with Myanmar. So this butterfly belongs to a genus and a species which is also found across Myanmar and China. It belongs to a larger family. It belongs to the Thema genus and the family of Nymphalidae. And there are multiple species under this genus and family, which is found in the neighboring countries of Myanmar and China as well. So since the topic is in news, UPSC might ask a basic question. It might ask, recently four-ringed butterflies were rediscovered in which part of India? Answer would be Namdapha National Park in Arunachal Pradesh. Next, another important update with regard to art and culture, a very sad development. One of India's top Bharatanatyam exponents, Yamini Krishnamurthy, has passed away. Yamini Krishnamurthy was a top dancer, someone who popularized Bharatanatyam in North India and also took Bharatanatyam to the global stage. Just like Pandit Ravi Shankar, right? Or just like other top artists from India, from the likes of MS Subbalakshmi to Bismillah Khan. Similarly, Yamini Krishnamurthy took the art form to the rest of the world, popularized Bharatanatyam in the West. She even became an exponent in Odissi. She was multi-talented, one of the leading dancers of India, right, promoting the classical art forms of India. So Yamini Krishnamurthy has passed away. So as we pay condolences, it's important to take note because there can be an art and culture question. Next, a terrorist outfit called Shabab has carried out a deadly attack in Mogadishu. So you should know where this terrorist outfit operates. It operates in the East African country of Somalia. Is that clear? It is of direct concern for India because we are bound by the Indian Ocean. India has direct interests near Horn of Africa. Somalia belongs to the Horn of Africa region. And Somalia has been going through a civil war since more than 30 years, since 1990s. So this terrorist outfit called Al-Shabab has taken control of large parts of the country and it has pushed the civilian government out of these areas. Every now and then it carries out these deadly attacks. It is affiliated with Al-Qaeda. It has links with Al-Qaeda. It subscribes to Al-Qaeda's ideology and philosophy. And around Mogadishu and along the coastline of Somalia, it is known to be notorious, engaging in frequent terror attacks in the region. Al-Shabab is also known for its links with Somalian piracy. By pushing the poor Somalians to engage in piracy, Al-Shabab generates funds to finance its terrorist activities. So this deadly terror group has carried out this major attack at a beach where more than 37 people have been killed. Next, another update from Myanmar. A rebel group has seized a critical location, Lashayo, over here, which is in the Shan state of Myanmar. As you all know, Myanmar is going through a civil war. In 2020-21, Myanmar's army suspended the elections, brought back military rule. Since then, there has been a pro-democracy movement led by the political parties, which is also supported by several ethnic armed groups. And in the last 15 months, the ethnic armed organizations, which are the rebel groups, they have made rapid advances. Last year, 3 armed groups came together to form an alliance called the Three Brotherhood Alliance. It includes the Arakan Army from the Rakhine region that borders India, Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army from the Shan region that borders China, and the Tang National Liberation Army, TNLA, which operates in the Kachin and Shan region. These 3 rebel forces, they united to form the Three Brotherhood Alliance to create a united challenge against the military regime in Myanmar. So in the last few months, Myanmar's army has lost ground. It has lost significant territory. Arakan army has captured key locations along the borders with India and Bangladesh. We have discussed this in previous sessions as well. Then MNDAA has captured critical locations along the Chinese border, and now it has captured Lashio, which is a military command center, a very critical military command center for the Myanmar army, and it has been toppled from here. It has come under the control of the rebel forces. So many experts are predicting that it's only a matter of time that Myanmar might fully collapse. The military regime might collapse, which is unprecedented. The army has never seen such setbacks before. It has lost significant territory to the rebel groups, and these ethnic armed groups, they might emerge victorious, or in a best case scenario, Myanmar will be fragmented, where only some territory is controlled by the army, the government, and remaining areas would maybe come under the armed groups. So this is a nightmare scenario for India, because these developments have a direct impact on India's security in the northeast, because we share a long border with the country, and these threats, they spill over. The refugee crisis, illegal migration has already spilled over, and organized crime, the smuggling of drugs, weapons is a major concern which can fuel northeast insurgency. And many northeast insurgents have connections with some of the ethnic armed groups in Myanmar. So the political instability, the security crisis here is of grave concern for India. We are closely watching the developments. That's why you need to track the recent developments which are taking place. You should know the names of these groups, the Three Brotherhood Alliance, and the key towns and regions which are falling under the control of the rebel forces. So on this note, I bring my discussion to an end. I hope you guys have enjoyed the session. Now please join the Telegram channel. The official Telegram channel, the link for that is provided in the description, because we will conduct a quiz after the session. We'll share some practice questions which will help you revise these articles. So that is it for today. I hope you understood everything. If you like the session, do let me know through your likes, through your comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. That is it. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.